from the Salvation Army National Headquarters, this is the Fight for Good podcast.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another Fight for Good podcast. I'm your host, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Foley. We're broadcasting from our national headquarters here in Alexandria, Virginia. Today, joining me is our national commander, Commissioner David Hudson. Commissioner, good to see you this morning.
And you. It's good to see you as well.
Thanks for being with us. And also, our illustrious producer, Elizabeth. She's here, but she's not mic'd up. But we're so grateful for her working all the bells and whistles and pulling this all together. Today's a very special podcast, as each of them are, but in particular this one, as we're going to be discussing in a very short period of time here, COVID-19 and the Salvation Army's national, if not international, response to this matter. Commissioner, this is really uncharted territory for all of us, and particularly for you, given the leadership that you are delving in. But I just was curious, how are you and Commissioner Sharon holding up personally? How are things for you?
We're doing fine. We're trying to stay actively helping the Salvation Army and the American public the best we can. But we're also trying to adhere personally to the guidelines that our state has issued and the federal government as well. So we pretty well stay at home as much as we can. We work from home, from our balcony in our condo in Alexandria. We go to the store for essentials. I do go out and walk along the trail, and which is always enjoyable to get some fresh air. But we're doing very well. Thanks for asking.
And you're a very active person. You have been traveling constantly in this position, and now you have you're stay at home. I mean, you're not going anywhere. You're here for the long haul.
Yeah, I think last time I got off a plane was March 1st or 2nd. And so that was, 3 weeks ago now, maybe. And as you would know, we have put a moratorium on all travel for national headquarters through the end of April. And my wife and I are adhering to that as well. And so we will not be going anywhere for at least the next 5-6 weeks or something like that. So, yeah, it's different.
Now, national headquarters is not closed. We're remote. We are all working remotely. It took a few days for us to get up and running. Was there any thoughts that you had about how national headquarters is operating in these times?
Well, from what I'm hearing and what I've witnessed, we're doing remarkably well. About 95% of our people or so are able to work effectively from home, and so they're engaged throughout the day. They're engaged through their computers, through their cell phones, keeping things moving the best we can. All of the Commissioners' Conference committees and commissions are going to be remote at least through the end of April. And so our people are engaged with the territories. Community Relations and Development Department are working just full steam ahead and just doing a yeoman's job in trying to support the territories and both communicating what we're doing to the national public, but also helping facilitate the national fundraising that will be allocated to the territories to combat the virus and help the Salvation Army in our response.
We have a terrific group of people, both officers and employees that work in this building, and one of the unique things that we experience here is the fellowship and the unique opportunities that we have to be together. So this is a lot different for all of us, but I know our program and publications team is effectively working, and we're still churning out more and more information. We're going to be producing issues of the War Cry. We're almost done with May's, and June is almost in the bag, and we want to encourage our soldiers and officers and employees to use the war cry in your distribution processes that are really going to be ramping up here soon in helping a world of hurt. What are some of the things, Commissioner, that you're seeing from your perspective? Some of the blessings and maybe some of the real challenges.
Well, I think the challenges is we are, as you said, are in uncharted waters. I've been an officer for almost 45 years, and I have never seen anything like this. We've
and you've been through a lot of different disasters, earthquakes and
hurricanes.
I
I certainly remember 9/11 and what was going on in that time. I remember the housing crash and how it impacted the country and how it impacted the Salvation Army and our ability to serve. I've witnessed disasters which are more episodic and localized, and the Army's response, but never anything as broad as this. I mean, this is a global. The world is certainly in our thoughts and minds. We here at National Headquarters are pretty well focused on what we're doing to support our people here in the United States. So it is a unique situation. So that's kind of the challenging part. Here's the blessing part. The Salvation Army, when there is a call to action, I don't know of a group in the world that responds faster and adjusts its response to whatever the challenge is. I just heard yesterday in California, along with the thousands that were already housing, the evening, overnight, and permanent shelters with the Salvation Army in California. In Southern California, they are ramping that up by 1,000 additional beds right now. They're opening warehouses and spacing bunks the appropriate distances in order to meet the challenge. And Mayor Garcetti says, I want to do more. And the Salvation Army wants to do more, and we want to do as much as we can. It was also interesting to see in Montana, where the Army is utilizing unused school buses that would normally be picking up kids, now are delivering food to families. So that great partnership now with the folks in Montana. In a couple of places, we're offering no-cost child care to healthcare providers and first responders. And we'll continue to do that as long as we can. But at the same time, we have to kind of balance how do we keep everybody safe. Food distribution, where usually people come in to a facility, now it's drive-through. Donations, where a person used to bring things in, is now drive-through. So again, it's trying to meet the challenge in this unique ways, and the Army is responding just in incredible ways, which is such an encouragement to see. It certainly is the Salvation Army that I'm passionate about. It's that exercise of mission that I'm so passionate with our mission, and to see men and women just coming together with appropriate distance to meet human need in His name without discrimination. There's a need, we want to meet that need.
We're residing on the shoulders of officers and soldiers for decades and decades who had a spirit of innovation. And this is another time for us to innovate. And perhaps you can give a little bit of encouragement to the officers and soldiers and employees on the field to, go beyond and start thinking even more creatively.
Yeah, absolutely. But I first want to say, we need to keep our people safe, and we need to be safe, and so we need to use good judgment.
Right.
We need to find ways to work not just internally with each other, but with external partners. Work with other organizations.
Spirit of collaboration.
It's and just as we come together, and we focus on this thing together. We will overcome it quicker. with fewer people being impacted. But we really have to be responsible. I heard the Surgeon General today talk about people out on the beaches in California in light of what's going on today. And we all have to take this seriously. If we don't, it's going to go longer and it's going to go deeper. And we can't afford to have that happen because our people matter too much. Our vulnerable populations matter greatly. But I think sometimes even younger people have this sense of immortality. Mm-hmm. But what we're seeing in this country may be a little bit different. And the Surgeon General was saying, well, maybe it's because of the vaping that, more and more people are doing that, and maybe that's contributing to this. But we find that the younger people in the States, at this point, there's concern that it may not be following the same pattern as China and Italy. So our people need to be smart, and they need to adhere to the government rules that are being set down and guidelines, while at the same time finding ways to creatively serve our people.
You went to church yesterday in Pasadena, didn't you?
Man, I went to church, I think it was 4. I started the day at Saddleback, and Rick Warren gave a great message.
Yeah, the nation's pastor.
Yeah, I went to Pasadena Tabernacle, and then I made a stop by at Phoenix South Mountain. I think I cruised by El Cajon in Mayocor in Southern California. And then at the end of the day, I found myself on the North Shore of Hawaii and listening to the service that was being done at the upper room, which actually was, I think they were doing 11 o'clock their time, but it was like 5 or 6 our time.
So while adhering to the travel ban. Amazing.
Yeah, I was virtually everywhere. Matter of fact, I guess the Concorde got back out and helped me get around because I was getting around pretty fast yesterday.
We want to encourage our listeners to go to thewarcry.org. There we're every day uploading new content, and we want to know in particular to your links to your live services and things that you're doing. And I know that people are holding meetings not just on Sunday, but sometimes there's Bible studies going on and throughout the week and other activities. We want to promote those of you that are continue to do the most good, that are doing it safely and smartly. And we're very encouraged, and we thank God for all of you that are fighting for good in these days. And we want to give you all an incredible shout out for that. Well, Commissioner, in conclusion here, what sorts of words of hope and comfort and encouragement do you want to give to our listeners and officers, soldiers, employees, volunteers?
Well, in times of uncertainty, the one thing that I have experienced as a constant in my life is God's faithfulness. God is forever faithful. And we have promises in the Old Testament, in Joshua, and in Hebrews, where it says, I will never leave you, I will never forsake you. So we need to realize that God is with us. And we need to realize that our current state will not be our permanent reality. We will overcome this. We will pass through this. But we need to do it in a way that honors God, but also it needs to be in a way that honors our leaders, governmental leaders at every level. When they're giving us advice, we need to adhere to the advice. And if we do these things, we will get through these things quicker and with less consequences. So the encouragement is this will pass. If we just need to make sure that we are paying attention to things that are the most important.
And the Salvation Army is in this for the long haul.
We're in everything for the long haul. We're first in because we're already there. We're last out because we will continue to be there. And throughout the United States, some 7,500 centers of operations, from very, very small to very large. We will be there to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, of redemption, of restoration, of hope and grace, and to meet human need in His name without discrimination.
The Salvation Army is an essential organization deemed by the U.S. government. And we want to encourage everybody, as the commissioner said, to be safe, to be smart, to use that old noggin that God has given you, and use your wisdom. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and some of our regular listeners know that already, but we want to encourage you to use those sources and to continue to tell your message. We are, as I said earlier, continuing to publish the War Cry and Peer magazines. Those magazines will be coming to you, and even more digital information that Elizabeth, our producer here, will be putting up on our website. So, and we're trying to get our technology together so that we'll be producing more episodes of the Fight for Good podcast as we go forward through this crisis together. So that will conclude this episode of the Fight for Good podcast. Commissioner, thank you so much for coming and being with us today. And we want to thank you, our listeners, for taking a few moments out of your day. We hope that God's favor and grace and peace will be yours. Be safe, everybody. God bless you.
Subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts.